From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, Dr. Jason here, Dental Lighthouse Podcast. Special Thursday recording. Don't you feel special? As you guys know, I normally do these things on Wednesday morning, but I had a couple really cool inquiries from listeners, from some people that I've worked with in the past, about bonuses and individualized bonuses and stuff like that. And it just led me to have tons of thoughts that are running around in my head. And I wanted to share those thoughts with you. So let me try to give you a little bit of context here on my thought process. I'm 50. And as you guys know that follow me closely, one of my 7 identities that I strive for every single day is to become what we call, or what I call, a 10%er in the world of health and wellness. So what does that mean? It means that I'm not trying to be an Olympic athlete. I'm not trying to be a 1%er. I'm not trying to have 5% body fat. But what I am trying to do is be in that upper echelon of mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. And as you get older, you realize that your body starts to fight you a little bit on certain things like energy, like hormonal health, like growth hormone, all of these things, right? So I've gone down a rabbit hole on peptides, on biohacking, on you name it. It's a passion project of mine. I do a lot of what the social media circles call research on my body when it comes to specific peptides, specific biohacks, stuff like that. And I'm enjoying doing this quote unquote research. But here's the thing. When you ask these experts, these YouTube influencers, and I mean that in a positive way, you know, I'm talking about guys that have PhDs in this stuff and guys that have lived it, guys that are coaching other people and have for at least a decade on how to go from good to great. They all say the same thing, right? They all say that peptides, for example, like a mitochondrial-based peptide like MOTS, or even a GLP peptide like tirzepatide or retatrutide, they all say the same thing. These chemicals, these peptides, these enhancers will amplify good behavior, but have absolutely no cause or no great result if the foundational principles, if the foundation is not dialed in. So what do we mean by that, right? Let's use an example of GLP-1s, because that seems to be very common. The most common one that the FDA has approved, called tirzepatide. One that's kind of in the biohacking space that's getting a lot of traction, is called retatrutide. So if you take these particular peptides, some things are going to happen. If your sleep is already dialed in, if your mindset is correct on the amount of protein that you need to get, if you're eating somewhat close to whole foods 80 to 85% of the time, if you've reduced your stress, not completely eliminated it, but you have some practices that are helping reduce stress. If you have a decent strength training regimen where you're doing some resistance training 3 to 4 days a week so you don't lose muscle, you know, all of these things. If your foundational principles are in place, then supplementing or adding a GLP-1 can take you from good to great. But for every example like I just gave in these online communities, Reddit, Facebook, schools, where I get an opportunity to read dozens upon dozens of messages from people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s who are experimenting with these drugs. It's amazing what you often hear. You often hear, these drugs don't work for me. Um, I'm, I'm, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, I haven't seen the results that you guys are seeing. And then when you start to peel back the onion, you start to understand that they are still eating like shit and that they still only get 5 hours of sleep a night and that they don't really believe in resistance training outside of some push-ups and air squats, but they'd rather do, 60 minutes of cardio every other day. So why are these peptides and biohacking molecules not working for them? It's because peptides and biohacking molecules are amplifiers of good behavior. Another classic one is some of these sleep medications. It could be something as conservative as melatonin to something as radical as a peptide that they call DSIP, right? It doesn't really matter. Almost all of these adjuncts work in some capacity, but the rest of your sleep hygiene needs to be super dialed in. So you can't be watching, endless shows on Netflix right up until you go to bed. You can't be playing a super stimulating, colorful, Tetris type game on your phone as you're lying in bed. You can't be consuming processed sugar or a lot of carbohydrate just before you go to bed. Like these are all basic sleep hygiene concepts that everybody knows about, but they're hard to be disciplined enough to implement it. So if you don't change any of those sleep hygiene processes and you add on melatonin, you add on uh, DSIP, you add on even over the counter, I'm sorry, not over the counter, even prescription based sleep medicines that can also have some addictive qualities, it's not going to help, right? Or you're just putting a band aid on a deeper issue. So, why do I bring this up? Well, two of my clients that I have a history with and a couple podcast listeners this week have asked some really, really good questions based out of frustration with some of their team members. So one of them was, how do I bonus and incentivize my treatment coordinator? And another one was, how do I convince, bonus, incentivize my front desk to answer the phone more and to fill the hygiene schedule? Right. So these are two classic examples of um, obstacles, roadblocks, issues that we all face. And the mindset of, let me just bonus them, let me just incentivize them without dealing with the underlying issues is like taking a GLP-1, but you haven't dealt with the fact that your diet's for shit and you don't resistance train and you don't sleep. Uh, you don't focus on quality sleep. It's not going to work, or it's going to work superficially for a very, very short period of time, and then you're going to stall. So, if in the peptide and biohacking world, we know what the foundational principles are of sleep, nutrition, stress management, um, those types of things, what are the foundational principles when it comes to getting our team dialed in? So, an amplifier, like a incentive or like a bonus, actually moves the needle and is not just exacerbating a bigger problem or not going to just be a band-aid, right? So the first thing, and I want to state the obvious, the first thing is, are we talking about a player, B player, or C player, right? And by that, I mean, for those of you guys that haven't listened to a lot of my content, are they a good core value fit, right? So you got to have your core values clearly listed and defined. And Are they managing their tasks or their roles and responsibilities? We have A players that do both of those things at a super high level. We have B players that do both of those things at a adequate enough level. And then we have C players that continually fight us, continually need coaching, continually get resources from us, but don't utilize them, right? It's easy for me to tell you, you got to get rid of your C players. Okay. The issue that we always run into is, oh my gosh, Jason, I'm already so understaffed. And this is a conversation for another podcast, but I don't know how many times I need to say this. Your team of A and B players will rally around you being understaffed if you let that C player go. Now, not forever. You can't redline them for, you know, 8, 10, 12 weeks. But the mindset of as soon as I find another A or B player, I'll let the C player go, it doesn't work, right? So let that C player go, and um, your A's and B's will rally while you look for another A and B. That's the first thing. The second thing is, from the roles and responsibilities perspective, is do they have absolute clarity with what winning is? Now, it's one thing to make sure that you're clear about roles and responsibilities, but it's another thing to give them an objective measurement so they have even more of an understanding of if they're winning. And in both those examples that I just presented, um, we can do that, right? So for the dentist that reached out and said, we how do I convince my team to answer the phone more? Well, how much are they answering the phone now? Do they have clarity on what the minimum standard is? And if they're an A and B player and you want to incentivize them, how do we outline some type of incentive that is going to take them from good to great? So you're able to write this cookbook, right? So let's assume that their current call answer rate is 65%, right? Not good. Um, let's assume that you want the call answer rate to be 85% because you feel that that's what you need to generate enough patient volume in the back to really make this engine hum. Have you been crystal clear with whoever's answering your phones that the current call answer rate is 65% and you need the call answer rate to be 85%? That's the first question I have for you. The second question I have for you is, during one-on-ones, have you really unpacked with this particular person or your administrative team the list of things that they're responsible for and the priority associated with them? So in my particular world, if there's a live human breathing patient in front of us, we don't answer the phone. But in every other situation, we're answering the phone. Now, your administrative team may have the mindset of, okay, the phone's ringing, but um, I'm on the phone with the insurance company doing insurance verification. So once I do that, I'll start answering the phone. That's not, that's not acceptable. And do they know that that's not acceptable? So again, I'm making some, very generic assumptions here, but it's been my experience that if you have an A and a B player and they're not meeting the expectation that you've set for them, you probably haven't been crystal clear about what the objective metric is that defines winning or defines success. And you probably haven't been crystal clear about the priorities of, okay, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three, and then go all the way down the line. It's been my experience that team members, they're getting their stuff done, but they're doing it in an order that doesn't make any sense. And mainly, they're doing it in an order of what they love to do first and what they um, hate to do last. Because if they don't have enough time to get to that last task, then it's okay because they were quote unquote productive. So, again, two things that you need to be well, many things, but two things that you need to be thinking about in this particular situation is, do they have clarity with what success is from an objective perspective? In this context, call answer rate currently at 65%. We want it to get to 85%. And if they're an A and B player and you're trying to create a favorable incentive that is going to motivate them even more and at the same time help in the office, then it's been my experience that you take the standard that you've set in this fictitious example, 85%, and whatever they're able to do above and beyond that, or what we call the delta, then a percentage of that, and you guys can figure out how you want to do this, is ultimately turned into an incentive. Let's change the conversation to treatment coordinating. Same exact thing, right? So one of the most important roles in the office, if not the most important role, is to get the patient to say yes, right? We've talked about this before. You can have a Taj Mahal of an office, you can have the best equipment, no demand, you can have new patient flow through the roof, right? But unless that patient is saying yes, the whole engine stops. You will not be able to grow your office and scale predictably if patients consistently are saying no, or if the percentage of them saying yes is significantly less than it needs to be. In our particular world, we try to aim for a minimum of 35% case acceptance, rolling 3-month average. Case acceptance is defined as the dollars of treatment scheduled over the dollars of treatment presented, right? 35% is a really good baseline. Now, if you're looking to incentivize a TC or someone that's responsible for keeping the schedule full, then it's the same exact philosophy that we talked about with the call answer rate, right? So, is this an A or B player first, right? So, are they a good core value fit? Second, what is the expectation when it comes to treatment coordination? Is the expectation a percentage, a case acceptance percentage? Is it a dollars scheduled on the books? Is it a dentistry that's on the schedule over the next 4 weeks? Like, so many choices here, and it's up to you on how you want to structure this. A simple example could be you want your primary treatment coordinator to be closing and scheduling $100,000 in dentistry for you as the doctor every single month, right? Okay, boom. Now you realize that you have an A or B player. You realize that you've now been clear about what the minimum effective dose is, for lack of a better term, or what the standard is, what winning looks like. It's $100,000 in scheduled treatment every single month. So you can create an incentive that bonuses off of the delta, right? So if we're in February, right? Let's say the goal for February is to have the founder owner doctor at $100,000 in dentistry scheduled and completed by the end of the month, right? And then let's say the end of the month comes around and you were actually able to do 115,000 in scheduled and completed dentistry. That $15,000 difference between the baseline and what you actually did, I would incentivize on that. Again, if it's an A and B player and they understand exactly what they're doing, and it doesn't have to be rocket science, right? So there's a $15,000 delta. Maybe you give 5 or 10% of that delta. So we're talking anywhere from 750 to $1,500 in a monthly incentive. Now you have to make sure at the back end that these numbers make sense. You can't just say $100,000 is the minimum without realizing that you're not profitable at 100,000. And again, that's a more nuanced conversation. Please reach out if you want to have that conversation. But understand what you need to have as a baseline to be successful, right? And then reward people that are going above and beyond that on a consistent basis. So those are the short answers, although probably took longer than I was supposed to. But those are the short answers to some of those docs that reached out and said, how would you do this or how would you do that? A couple other real quick things that I think we should touch on. Um, is it fair to incentivize specific people in the office only and not others? In my opinion, the short answer to that question is yes, it is fair because everyone brings a certain level of value to an organization. And if the skill set and the value add of this particular person is something that you really rely on, then I do feel that they should be recognized or incentivized above and beyond the norm. So we're talking about an office manager that you is a unicorn for you. We're talking about a treatment coordinator that you really rely on. Um, we're talking about a clinical lead in the back, a dental assistant that converts a lot of same day treatment. We're talking about a hygienist that understands what their minimum standard is and continually goes above and beyond that. I feel that that's very, very fair to incentivize them as individuals when they go above and beyond the standard. But I also feel that as a business owner, you should be rewarding everyone if a certain level of profitability is attained. So in our world, we have two types of, let's call them incentives, right? So we have some individualized incentives, not everyone, not every position, right? But we have some individualized incentives for people that are A and B players, great core value fits, understand what the baseline is for success, and we want to reward them for going above and beyond. Great example is hygienists, right? The hygienists know what their minimum standard is. Obviously within the core values of the organization, they know that when they exceed that minimum standard, they're going to share in a piece of that surplus, that delta. But I also feel that if you're transparent with your numbers and you maintain a minimum level of profitability, then that delta, whatever above that minimum standard is, should be shared with the team from a profit sharing perspective. So I know I just unpacked a lot there. And then again, happy to digest any one particular part of that. But I just wanted to get that musing out, these ramblings that are in my head about, first and foremost, you have to make sure that we're hitting a foundational level, right? Like I talked about with the peptides and the GLP-1s and biohacking. Biohacking doesn't work. Peptides don't work if your foundational principles are non-existent, right? Once you get your foundational principles in line, some of these biohacking techniques, some of these peptides can really move the needle. Same exact thing happens in the dental office, right? An incentive, a profit sharing plan, an individualized bonus structure is not going to work if the foundation is broken. And by foundation being broken, I mean, we're talking about C players, we're talking about right people, wrong seat, those types of things. You got to get that dialed in. Once you get that dialed in, then it does make sense to consider some type of individualized incentive from what the minimum standard is to what they're currently achieving and bonus or incentivize them on the delta. That's it, guys. Hopefully this rambling was of use to you. If you have any specific questions regarding what I'm talking about, don't hesitate to reach out. My contact information is on our website, dentallighthouse.com. You can text me, you can email me, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you want to be on the show, reach out. And if you just kind of want to hang out and maybe have a few beers, maybe we could do it via Zoom. Talk to you soon, guys. Later.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.